Hey everyone, thanks for tuning back into mattsteinway.com. I'm here with one of Australia's real estate icons, Bill Bridges. Hey mate.
Hi mate.
Well, I've got a million questions I'm going to ask you, but I've only got like 15 minutes, so I'm going to be very quick and get straight into it.
Yeah.
How long have you been in real estate?
I think it's 55 or 56 years in January.
Gee, all the way through.
All the way through, yeah.
What was it like 50 years ago in real estate?
A little different.
Yeah.
Paddington terraces were £3,000 each.
Gee.
And
Straight from school?
no, I was apprentice jockey to begin with, and then I went from racing into real estate.
Yeah, right.
And
Yeah. Did you, like the jockey, didn't want it?
horses and houses.
Yeah. So you've been in this area the whole time, or near enough? Or?
Yeah, well, I started off in Balmain, yes.
Okay. Yeah. And you grew up down
No, I grew up at near Warwick Farm Racecourse. That's
Okay.
where I grew up in Bridges Road, Liverpool. That's where I were from.
there? Yeah.
So that's where the family.
Was it named after your family?
Yeah, after one of my uncles. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yes. There. Yes.
Very good. I've just been looking at one of your things,
Yeah.
and all the massive sales. What's the most expensive property you've sold?
45 million.
45 mil.
Hmm.
That's a lot.
That's the record for a waterfront. It's disputable. Another agent said he sold the dearest one, but
Yeah.
according to RP data, that's the dearest one.
Can I ask you something? How do you price that sort of home when you go there?
Well,
Do you just go gut feel, or do you?
if you've sold properties in the area for over 20,
Yeah.
you've got a good idea that property was a bit special. It belonged to the old Albert family,
Mm-hmm.
and it had about an acre of ground with a 300-foot frontage to the water.
Gee.
Lachlan Murdoch's renting it at the moment.
Is he?
Yes, and he tried to buy it, but he didn't want to part with so much money, and I sold it to a bloke from overseas. So, yeah, it's a good house. It's Vaucluse. You don't see the bridge or the opera house, but you look out the heads. It's a lovely place.
And without advertising, so do you just have a insane amount of buyer contacts or something, do you? Like,
Yeah.
is that what you do mainly? Like, is it?
Yeah, well, most of the places I sell is word of mouth.
Yeah.
If it's good,
Yeah.
and if it's waterfront, like Altona, that one there I've sold 2 or 3 times, and I've got a buyer on that at the moment at 30, between 32 and 35 million.
Yeah.
That one I sold to Jamie Packer for 18 something, and he's spending a lot of money on that. About 15 million, I think, doing it up, and bought some land around it. That there's a record for the rural area. That's when I sold 150 acres for 19 million. That's a record.
You only have to sell 2 of those and you go on holidays.
Yeah, not if you're educating kids at private schools
Yeah.
and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Do you have a listing presentation that you do? Like, not that I want you to do it, but do people just call you and say, yeah, I'll list with you? Is that what happens?
yeah, they have their favourite agents.
Yeah.
I'm not one to overquote. I tell them the truth, and sometimes it's like telling them they've got ugly kids if they think the house is worth more than what I think it's worth.
Yeah.
But
Do they listen to you though? If you give
they
them
listen, but
advice?
they get a lot of
Yeah.
other opinions. It's a very
Right.
tough area to sell in.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty smart.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be living here else they were. They're pretty smart, and they know values pretty well, but agents to get listings are inclined to overestimate their value, and then they, I looked at a place the other day around, I thought it was worth 18, some other agent said 25, and I said, I can't get you 25, you better run with him. But I said, if he doesn't get 25, you come back to me.
Do you find a lot of them come back?
Oh yes, it might take 6 months or something, and
Yeah.
And I'm not one for spending great amounts of money on advertising. If you're a good agent and you can categorise your buyers, I've got them up in here. Who's got the money? I keep them there so no one else will see them. So I've got a good memory, thanks to God. And I sell a lot of places word of mouth. I see a place and I call it slotting, and I think I know who'll buy that. They'll love that sort of architecture and they'll love its position. There's the new rich and there's the old rich, and everyone's different.
Do you go on network these days, or did you years ago? How did you get to know all these people? Just by being around, or did you actively go out?
Yeah, well, racing was great for me. It teaches you to handle people and it teaches you to survive. And you get to know, and money doesn't, if you come off the race course, you meet people with lots of money and lots of blokes too, and you know, I treat everyone the same. I don't care how rich they are.
Do you ever get intimidated with someone's worth?
No. He's good to talk to, Jamie, and his old man was even better. A lot of fun, his old man. A bit ruder than me even, I think. And he was a good bloke. If he liked you, he liked you, and I knew him quite well. And he was a good man's man. He had a lot of friends. You wouldn't want to be his enemy, let me say that. But you know, I got all right with him. And the old bloke, he was a good fellow, and Jamie's a good bloke too. I sold Jamie the house where he lives at Bondi Beach.
Right, on the corner.
That used to be an old service station. So I sold him that, and I sold him one in Knox Avenue when he was with Kate Fisher. I sold him those three places. And I sold his sister a place in Fairfax Road called Winston. That used to belong to David Archer, and Gretel lives there. Of course, the old family house in Victoria Road, Ros, I don't think he'll ever sell it. Jamie and his sister will probably inherit it. I have no idea what they're going to do with it. But you know.
Do you do any personal marketing? Like when you list something, do you send things out like the typical real estate agents do, or do you just sell it and...
Yeah, I send a little bit of stuff out. You know, some houses, I categorise them, of course. Some houses I think this is going to be difficult to sell, but there's a house for everyone, you know. One man's food's another man's poison, but I mightn't like a house. I think that house leaves me cold. I sell houses that I like very well. With a passion, because you know, I
connected to it.
Yeah, and if I walk into a house and I feel relaxed, and that if I had to go and sleep there tonight or whatever, I could. And there's some houses I think I don't like this house at all, but someone's going to like it. And you know, women buy houses, not men. And the women are pretty clever in the eastern suburbs. They buy very expensive houses because it's part of their superannuation. You never know when your young husband's going to run off with a young girl, so there better be a nest egg there, because you might need it later on. But it costs a lot to live here.
I can see by the houses that are around.
It costs a lot to live here, and you know... cost of living, school fees, and all those things. So
I've got to ask you one thing. I don't know if it's true or not. I've been in real estate 16 years. And it might be an urban myth, but did you go to an auction, your auction that you were handling in your cozies from the beach? Is that true?
Yeah, well, I was at Bondi. I go to Bondi every day, and I got in the car. Jeez, I've got an auction. It's Bondi Beach, and I was in my speedos. And I thought, well, I haven't got time to go home and change. And the auctioneer, it's just about to start, and I walked in. It sold.
With cozies and towel and off you went.
I put a towel around me. And, suits and ties don't sell houses.
No, yeah.
Good houses sell themselves. You don't
Yeah.
sell these houses.
Right.
People
Sort of one
people
person.
buy them.
Yeah. Yeah.
They buy them. You don't
Yeah.
sell those houses. People look at them, and there's no there's no great salesmanship in selling these expensive houses.
Right.
That's all bullshit. That these houses sell because you pick the right people that like them.
Right.
And in 2006, when the things were booming, you couldn't stop people from buying these houses.
Yeah.
If they wanted it, they bought it.
Yes.
And that's what made the competition so stiff. So you had to know who'd buy this and who'd buy that. And, you know, sometimes you're wrong, and sometimes you miss out on someone that's bought a house, and you think, and you miss out, and you say, and they bought something, and you're that surprised. Why the hell did they buy that on?
Yeah.
That's the last thing I would have shown. So I'm wrong quite often.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I pick my mark correctly, but I might be right about the wife, because I concentrate on wives because they're the ones that help make the final decision.
Yes.
And
Is the negotiation different in that? Like 40 million, do you have to pick your operator a little bit, like the buyer?
there were 3 buyers on that.
Yeah, right. But handling the negotiation, like, are some people really difficult to negotiate with in that range, and some people?
Oh
easier?
yes, the people that owned it weren't even belonged to David Coe. Coe's a good bloke, and he's been a good bloke to me. So and I like him, and that was wasn't a real hard sale. He wanted to sell. And he was a considerable help with the sale, because he happened to know the guy that bought it too.
Right.
Because the guy that bought it's terribly wealthy, and they knew one another on a first name basis. He said, "Do you mind if I phone him?" I said, "Not a bit.
That's good.
I've got an agency agreement. I don't care."
Yeah.
It'd be nice if someone sells one for a change.
Yeah.
Save a bit of work.
I've got 2 more questions for you before I let you get into your busy day. Have you ever got sick of it over those years? Like, have there... You know, in real estate, it can be a bit stressful over the years, I guess. And have you ever got sick of it and thought to yourself, "No, I want to break from it"?
Well, it's a good time to ask that question, but it's very difficult at the moment, and I
Yeah.
wish it was easier.
Yeah.
Because in this market you create your own work.
Yeah.
The phones don't ring, you create your own work, and that is the case at any time.
Yeah.
You've got to use the phone, and you create your own work, and if you're not doing that, well, you know, there's somebody wanting to buy something somewhere. You know, I'm trying to I've tried to do about 5 things at the moment. I've introduced Joe Hockey and a few of the politicians to an airport space I've got within an hour and a half from Sydney, 20,000 acres. I've been working on that. I've been working on a car park at Bondi, and I'm not having much success with that. I'm always looking to do something out of the ordinary, just not sell houses, you know. I sell properties, rural properties. And
I see stuff down the south coast you've got. Like we have.
I just sold one down there for 5 million, yes, and I'm just selling another one called Hopewood, and so that I go down there Saturday or Sunday. It's a bit of a variation. You can't be stuck in one area. You've got to sell where there's people looking for a certain thing. I've just signed up 25 acres of heavy industrial land at Moss Vale, which I think is terribly saleable. It's the first heavy industrial I've ever had. But there must be a buyer for it somewhere.
Yeah.
I think it's saleable. So,
well, if anyone's got one, I think you've got a buyer. By the sounds of it.
I hope it might make a good cemetery for old agents.
Last question for you. What's the biggest lessons you've learned over the years? A lot of young agents watch this just starting.
Yeah.
And they're just starting out. And what's the biggest lessons you could share with them?
Biggest lessons. Well, the biggest lesson, one of the biggest lessons is don't get carried away and think because you're in real estate you're terribly important. You're just another bag of blood walking about there, doing the best you can. A lot of fellas end up with 2 phones and they're talking they're talking a lot of rubbish. You've got to be a little bit humble. It's difficult for me, but you've got to be a little bit humble. And the 3 most important things for a young bloke starting in real estate. First of all, energy. It's no good going into this business if you've got no energy. This is an energy business. Knowing values is so terribly important, and that takes a lot of time. Today it's easy because you've got RP data and the kids can go and go through the RP data and see what's sold, and that's another important thing. Knowing values and never forgetting that the vendor pays the commission, not the purchaser. In these tough times, a lot of blokes become purchasers agents. They're not on the agency agreement, but they are in real life.
Yes.
So you've got to remember who pays the commission. And another thing is, you can't be too demanding about commission till you know what you're doing. You've got to know once you know what you're doing, you know in the country I get 3%.
Right.
Or I won't get in the car.
No matter the price.
Yeah, 3%. Here, it's 2% plus GST.
Yeah.
There's one thing being proven in real estate, reducing commission doesn't sell houses. We've got agents here working on 1%. The houses are still for sale 18 months later.
Yeah.
That doesn't,
Yeah.
It's like being when you're a jockey. I call it insuring against remorse. I learned a great lesson when I was a little boy. I listened to the great George Moore say to a fellow one day, he gave him £3,000 for winning a race. And George said, "It's a bit light, Mr. Cohen." He said, "George, I've never paid a jockey £3,000. He said, "It wouldn't have won without me." He was quite right. It wouldn't have won without him.
Yes.
He said, "You better double it," and he got 6. So if you're good at anything, you can ask.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You learn. If you listen, you learn. And don't be frightened to listen.
We're going to end on that note, and I think there's a lot there for everyone to take away. Bill Bridges, one of the best, if not the best in Australia. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure, my boy.
Thank you.
No doubt.